This is the main drag in Newport Beach, just a few miles south of Los Angeles, often called New Porsche Beach. Needless to say, it's a well-heeled area. This is the local Jaguar dealership. Now, it claims to be the largest Jaguar dealership, not just in California, not just in the US, but in the entire world. There isn't a larger one even in Texas. Now, if that's the case, then what happens here has a major role to play in Jaguar's future, because Jaguar's economic well-being hangs as if by a thread on how well it does in this country. Now, in the early 80s, when the dollar was strong, European cars looked very cheap, Jaguar sales boomed. They rose by over 50%. When the value of the dollar dived, it took Jaguar's fortunes, not to say its profits with it. Even though in terms of sales, Jaguar hasn't done as badly as many other prestige European manufacturers like Mercedes and Porsche. From their 1988 baseline, Jaguar sales have fallen off by just over 5%. Saab and Mercedes are down by about 3 times that. But Porsche's sales have collapsed, with a drop of over 40%. But the catastrophic drop in profits at Jaguar has left them highly vulnerable to takeover. Already the predators are prowling around. And worse could be in store, because the Japanese are now after Jaguar customers. The long-expected Japanese attack on the top-of-the-range luxury car market has come at last on 3 fronts, with cars from Honda, Nissan, and this smooth number from Toyota. It's called the Lexus. It gets its name from an American image consultant, so it's supposed to have all the right luxury overtones. But you only have to look at the shape of the outside of the car to see precisely where it's targeted. Mercedes, of course, you almost expect to see a 3-pointed star on the front end. Inside it looks and feels much more like BMW, but in no way is this car just a copy. It's Toyota's best attempt to achieve a higher level of luxury than they've ever reached before. And certainly the build quality is superb, both outside and in. It's the quietest car perhaps I've ever driven. In fact, it's uncannily quiet. You sometimes wonder whether the engine is running. The noisiest thing is the air conditioning. The power from the big 32-valve V8 engine comes on as smoothly as the Jaguar, which is saying something. The ride is certainly as good as the Mercedes 420, and the handling on these winding mountain roads is at least the equivalent of the BMW. On top of all that, the coefficient of drag is lower than the Porsche 911. All that with a price tag that's $20,000 to $25,000 lower than the German cars, about $10,000 better than Jaguar. Toyota's problem is really image. To buy a European car confers status, whereas to buy a Japanese one certainly doesn't. But Lexus at this price is a real bargain in this country, and Americans aren't notoriously ready to ignore one of those. So I would say Mercedes and BMW and Jaguar really do have a battle on their hands. As if to rub salt into the wound, there's another Japanese car that's just taken off in the States. This little sports car has thrown California into a real tizzy. It's Mazda's MX-5, or Miata as they call it out here. Came out last March, and now everybody wants one. People are queuing up to get their name on the list. It's all about California's love of nostalgia. The ad for this car says it takes you into the 90s and back. They might have added back to the carefree British sports cars of the 50s and 60s, because that's where it came from. Indeed, the behind-the-scenes story of this car is quite extraordinary. An American working at Mazda's West Coast design studios and passionate about the premature demise of the old 2-seat British ragtop spent 10 years persuading the gurus at Mazda to recreate it, and that really is where the MX-5 has come from. So it's rounded rather than wedge-shaped in the current idiom, it's front rather than mid-engined, and it's conventional rear-wheel driven. This is not a copy of the MR2, it's a dead ringer for the old Lotus Elan. And in terms of length and weight, it's really just a whisker away from the old MGB and the TR6, who are its real ancestors. The engine is a deturboed version of one of those used in the 323, which gives a brisk rather than exciting performance, 0 to 6 in about 9 seconds, top speed about 115 miles an hour. Certainly not a purist sports car because it's far too refined, but I think it'll sell like takeaway pizzas when it gets to the UK, because it's everything you want in a sports car. They like to drive, it's fun, it's very forgiving, above all it's affordable. I only wish it were British.